A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We're here today with Peter Dobler, founder and CEO at Dobler Consulting. Peter, how are you doing today?
Excellent. How are you doing, Logan?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for coming on the show today, Peter. A very interesting story with your business and the challenges that you've overcome in building recurring revenue with your business. So excited to hear some of the lessons that you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey. But before we do that, if you could, Peter, just share with us a little bit about what you and the team at Dobler Consulting are up to these days.
I'm happy to. Thank you, Logan. Dobler Consulting just had its 10-year anniversary, so we're doing this for quite some time. Over the past 10 years, we went from a one-man show, aka myself, to a little bit over 50 people in the team, providing database support services as a managed services in a recurring revenue structure to I think it's now close to 100 clients. I'm not too sure. I can't really keep up. They come and go. But the important thing is that we essentially established ourselves as the experts in certain database technologies. We have been lucky to partner with some of the largest companies like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, where in all three of them, we have achieved gold partner status. So we came a long way from being just a one-man show to a pretty reputable company now in the database support space.
Yeah. Well, it's great to hear your story of success, Peter. As we were talking a little bit offline, you mentioned, where it all started was in the Great Recession, being laid off and taking hold of your entrepreneurial part of your personality. You mentioned as you got started, you really had to figure out, how am I going to scale this up? Like you've just mentioned, from one person to a growing, sustained company. What were some of those early things that you had to recognize and had to maybe change in the way that you approach the business to set yourself up to really build a business and scale? Yeah,
that's actually a great point. So I've been kind of independent for most of my career, and for the longest. Well, a pretty long part, I was in charge of some of the largest databases on the world. And then, as I said, the big recession happened, the whole outsourcing frenzy came into play. And I had to make a decision. Do I want to try to land another job? And at that point, I was pretty high up in the management field, so there were no management jobs. Or do I go back to the roots and essentially go back to being technical and provide services? There must be some way to do that. So it actually worked against me. Don't get me wrong. When you're trying to build a business that essentially provides services for a specialty that you typically hire somebody, but you don't necessarily know what exactly is this person doing and how much time do I need from that person. I'm talking about database administrators. They're typically kind of the outliers in the IT world. CIOs never know what they're doing. And you come in and say, hey, I can give you a service that costs you half or a third or less, and you get the same service or close to the same service. That's kind of the premise, right? But if you have a recession going and you have an army of database administrators on the streets, they will do the same thing just to pay the mortgage and feed their family, right? Yep. So that was hard. That was actually hard to compete. Fast forward to today, there's no competition because now I'm actually grazing the big prairies now because database administrators leave on their own and they go to another job, so I don't have to compete with them, and companies are scrambling to get their services. This is great for me. So we came a long way from there, right?
Right. From that struggle in the very beginning, that was pretty tough. And, when we were talking offline before the interview, Peter, you were talking about, a decision you had to make early on. You were facing stiff competition in trying to build a business. But at some point, you started to get some business. You were running as a one-man operation, and you had to make this decision of, do I want to make a living or do I want to build a business? And I thought that was so telling. Tell us a little bit about, what was going through your mind and what decisions you made to go the latter route there.
That was hard, and I can tell you, if anybody is in the same position, you work for yourself. You don't have nobody else, so you control exactly what you're doing. How you make more money, you work more hours. So at some point, you kind of go, hey, I can work 2 contracts at the same time. I can work 3 contracts at the same time. I'm putting in 80 hours a week. Great money. I make twice as much as I ever made in my life. That's great. It goes back to, do I want to make a living or build a business? If you want to make a living, you keep going with that till you kind of collapse under exhaustion and need 2 months off to recover. Or you say, wait a minute. If I want to build a business, I'll take half or 2/3 of the work that I do and get billed, hire somebody, let this person do it, get free time again. You can't build a business if you work in contract. So you need to get this free time, and you need to go out and get new business. And then you take the business yourself till you get to the point that you're overloaded, take a portion of that, more than half of it, hire somebody, give it to the next person. That's how you bootstrap yourself out of this thing.
Yeah, I love it, Peter. You were talking, kind of the next stage to make sure that you stayed relevant. Once you got some traction, you started, bringing on your first hires, was to really stay in your niche, to stay in your lane. Tell us a little bit about how you guys did that as you continued to build the business.
You have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. Do I want to be the spokesperson, the symbol, the face of the company or not? And most likely the answer is yes. And if you do that, you have to be the expert. And if you're not, you have to become the expert fairly quickly, and you have to learn. And I encourage everybody who's trying to build a business, trying to make a name for themselves, you need to know just a little bit more than the next guy to you. And the reason for that is that if you know just a little bit more, means clients perceive this as value, that, hey, why would I hire him? He can help me there because he knows that. And the thing is that when you do that, you have the credibility. Now, nobody knows who you are, right? So
you mentioned as well, Peter, that, one of the things that has come back around and is leading to your success now, as you mentioned, you're having a much better spot in a very favorable market for your expertise right now. Was years and years ago, sharing your expertise, and some folks were saying, "Hey, you're giving away free consulting," but you kind of it turned that on its head. And tell us how that's worked to your advantage in sharing your expertise and the content you could share that wasn't giving away free consulting, but it was leading back to business for you, down the road.
At some point, it may have been free consulting, but quite frankly, who cares? Yeah. No, you have to be willing to share. Willing to share means if somebody asks you a question, you give them an answer that makes sense to them, that moves the needle for them in one way. Because if you're just giving an answer and it doesn't help them at all anyway, then they will not come back and ask you again, or they will not remember you. Hey, yeah, Peter helped me with this at one point. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to give an answer that helps somebody to do something, overcome a problem, do something in a shorter period of time, something meaningful. Yep. If you do that, then this person remembers you. And keep in mind, I'm talking in a technical context. So these are all technical people. If you do this with technical people, at some point in their career, they may decide, hey, it's time for me to become a manager. They start moving up the corporate ladder, and at some point they become decision makers somewhere. They will remember you. And that happens to me. One thing I learned in my business, we are not hunters. We are farmers. I am constantly seeding. I'm seeding. I'm putting seeds everywhere. And I don't know how long it takes for these seeds to grow up. But you have to constantly seed it. And then it becomes a compound effect. 10 years down the road, we are now in a position where we are harvesting more than we seed at the moment. And that's where you want to be.
Yeah. I love it, Peter. Well, I love to hear a great entrepreneurial journey. Been seeing a little bit on your growth at Dobler Consulting. So great to hear more of the backstory and some of the things that you've been learning over the years and the things that have led to your success. And I love that analogy of, how you guys have been planting seeds and now reaping the benefits, years later. Peter, if anyone listening to this would like to reach out to you, ask any follow-up questions on your journey, stay connected with you in any way, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
There's a couple of things. Look me up on LinkedIn, Peter Dobler. There are not many of us there at Dobler Consulting. Go to doblerconsulting.com or send me an email at pdobler, P like the first name, and then Dobler, last name, at doblerllc.com.
Perfect. Well, Peter, thanks again for being on the show. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That was great.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.